The Equality Act. Equality for who, Madam Speaker?
Apparently facial recognition software has not been programmed to suffer from borderline personality disorder. As such, it misclassifies transgender people. https://tcogdla.1sog
R0G3RM360 Jassoning Trader for the narcissist being noticed as being affected.
Superb condition. Fine, I stand corrected. We are dealing with a certain kind of personality. STUARTROGERSF Richard Spencer. I don't believe we are discussing that, no.
Yusa Harbinath and Kaufman's Prague Pilgrim. The words smug and superior apply to Stanley's post, which is why there was such a reaction.
White privilege rocks. https://TCOWT3PGLRXDL Marjorie Taylor Greene is my spirit animal. mtgreenee
Quick fix now, they're transgender and can't be taken off the cover. https://TCOUCOTITM2ZO
All my dead relatives and I will be voting for Trump in 2024. If Democrats were serious about relief checks, they wouldn't have attached billions of dollars in frivolous spending to them. What we need is a full reopening of this country, not more checks.
19 trillion is 5,700 per person. You all get 1,400 and a president that doesn't tweet mean things. Thanks, liberals.
Is Ock planning a codal to visit the children in Biden's cages? Anyone remember the Cameron Peak fire that burned more 2,000,000 acres and was the largest wildfire in Colorado's history? What is the Democrats' solution? Lock up more federal land so we can have less active management and provide more fuel for catastrophic fires like Cameron Peak. More madness from the left because of legislation like the Inequality Act. We will see more skulls of women broken by confused men who claim to be women. Here's what I had to say about that. https://TCOCJPADAP4P.
The Equality Act. Equality for who, Madam Speaker? Where is the equality in this legislation for the young girls across America who will have to look behind their backs as they change in their school locker rooms just to make sure there isn't a confused man trying to catch a peek? Where is the equality for women who have been sexually assaulted? Under this legislation, their crisis counselor may be Alexis, who was actually born Alex, and they'll have to talk to him about their assault. Where is the equality for parents who want and deserve the right to raise their children free from government overreach? Under this proposal, Congress seeks to replace mom and dad with bureaucrats. This isn't hyperbole. In Ohio, a mom and dad had their child removed from their custody because they didn't allow their daughter to undergo gender transition. Removed from their custody. And so here we are. The left will lay down the rights and security of millions of Americans, particularly young women, at the altar of gender ideology. Following the lead of liberal indoctrination camps, also called colleges and universities, my colleagues on the left are committed to advancing this radical ideology. The rights and sovereignty of individual states be darned. So much for federalism. The power-hungry left will not slow down until every school, every church, every workplace, every state, and every community adheres to the left's definition of gender. You disagree? They'll fine you. They'll imprison you. Or, as we've seen, they'll even take your children. And let's make sure the American people know this is only the beginning. The Equality Act requires doctors to perform abortions, and they're going to use your tax dollars to pay for them. Once the left codifies their ideology, they'll come for your speech. It's already happened in Canada, where you can be fined and imprisoned for misgendering someone. And they won't stop there. Nothing will ever satisfy the left until there is complete and total compliance. Madam Speaker, Scripture says, when speaking of those who have turned their back on God, who have traded the truth for a lie. Professing to be wise, they became fools. I can think of no better description of the so-called Equality Act, or Inequality Act, than this. The utter foolishness. It's astounding. Up is down, wrong is right, left is right, and boys are girls, and vice versa. Madam Speaker, for the sake of our sons and daughters, for the sake of parental rights, privacy, decency, and so much more, I urge my colleagues to vote no on this horrendous legislation, and I yield back.
A bill that sends 90 of the money to Democrat pet projects and 10 to COVID-19 relief cannot by definition be classified as a COVID relief bill.
The left and the Renos call them common sense gun laws. I prefer the term unconstitutional. Colin B. of Bugle Good News is these Twitter ads never seem to have any effect on their elections. You can't win a race by being an influencer. Remember the good old days when Ben Shapiro and Milo Yiannopoulos both worked for Breitbart and published hit pieces against each other on the same site?
Matt Walsh blog. How does one trend in the entire country with only 1K tweets about them?
The worst thing Donald Trump ever did as president was leave. This is what 23 of the GOP conference actually wants and voted for in Ray messaging. This is what 23 think will win us back the majority in 2022. Anyone outside of DC buying it? Joe Biden's $19 trillion bailout is not about COVID-19. It sends $12 billion to foreign countries, only spends $5 on schools in 21, and gives millions to the National Endowment for the Arts, National Endowment for the Humanities, and Institute of Museum and Library Sciences. https://collikHZ4KWQH.
The Biden bailout cuts health care for seniors on Medicare under statutory pay-go. The plan will cause an approximately $30 billion cut to the Medicare program every year starting in 2022 and continuing for next 10 years. Why would Grandpa Joe hurt seniors?
Biden and the Dems will give $510 billion to incentivize continued state and local lockdowns, bailing out governors whose policies have led to the closure of more than 100,000 small businesses and kept K-12 schools closed, harming kids and working parents. It's just wrong. Dems are so beholden to the abortion murder lobby and their blood money campaign contributions that they nominated Libet for HHS, who's fine with murdering babies up until the day they are born and maybe even after. He's a monster. Republicans should vote no.
If I'm only clad in a towel and a man with a gun breaks in, I won't be climbing out the window of my own house. I'll be defending myself with my guns, and that man will be very sorry. For women's defense, a gun is the equalizer. Gun rights are women's rights.
The so-called Equality Act is disgusting, immoral, and evil. I will proudly vote no.
I rise today in defense of women, girls, and children. I'd like to talk about the Equality Act. It's a bill that we'll be voting on this week. It's a bill that was passed before, but it's a bill that needs to be struck down. This is a bill that will add sexual orientation and gender identity as protected classes under the federal 1964 Civil Rights Act. We live in a nation, thank God, that declares all of us equal. There should not be discrimination of anyone in the United States of America, and I fully believe that. But I ask everyone to take pause and truly consider what the Equality Act will do, because it has very serious consequences. You see, women have come very far in America, and our rights are extremely important. The work of our grandmothers and mothers to declare women as equal and push our way into the workplace and into sports has been remarkable achievements. Voting, being able to own businesses, achieve education the same as men in America is a gift that I feel so honored and blessed by. And I know that every American woman treasures this. But you see, the Equality Act will change all of that, because it will put trans rights above women's rights, above the rights of our daughters, our sisters, our friends. our grandmothers, our aunts. It's too much. You see, as a woman, I have competed in sports, and I'm so thrilled that I was able to do that, but I competed against biological women. It's a wonderful thing to be able to compete and prove yourself. Competition is a great, great thing. Little girls all over the country play sports. They play their hearts out, they practice, they enjoy time with their friends. Then they compete at higher levels where they can earn scholarships, where they can go to college and achieve and receive an education through playing a sport for their university or college. There's women that move on into professional sport fields and do remarkable things, incredible things for women. For example, Florence Griffith Joyner became the fastest woman in the world in 1988 when she ran the 100-meter dash in 10.49 seconds. I could only dream of being that fast. But in 2019, Matthew Bowling clocked the fastest high school 100-meter time ever in 9.98 seconds, an entire half second quicker than the fastest woman in the world. Biological women cannot compete against biological men. Biological little girls cannot compete against biological little boys, and they shouldn't have to. I have a daughter that is a D1 athlete. We traveled the country for 10 years where she competed at the highest level. She earned her scholarship and now she plays fast pitch softball. And I can't tell you how much fun I had watching her play this past weekend, and she hit a home run. But if she has to compete against boys in her sport, not only will they be on her playing field that she has to compete against them, they will be in her locker room, they will be in her showers, they will be in her bathroom, they will be in her hotel room when she travels with her team. All under the Equality Act. This is wrong. This isn't about political parties. It's not about Democrat, Republican. This is about right and wrong. This is about girls and women's rights. Furthermore, it affects women in prison. Trans men, biological men that identify as women, will be put with women in prison. Battered women's shelters, women that have been beaten and abused by men, will have men in their battered women's shelters. Drug rehab centers, and the list goes on and on. It is one thing to stop discrimination of a class of people, but it's another thing to completely violate and destroy the rights of girls and women in order to achieve this. This bill must be struck down. It's completely wrong. Furthermore, we are in an institution where it says, "In God we trust." Well, it says in Genesis, God created us male and female. In His image, He created us. Science has 2 sets of chromosomes that prove male and female. 80 to 95% of children with gender dysphoria completely outgrow it after puberty. The Equality Act will force doctors and nurses to perform mastectomies on girls that want to have their breasts removed. It will force doctors also to perform abortions because, according to the Equality Act, a doctor cannot say no. I ask that everyone please pause and consider and not vote no for the Equality Act. We can't do this in America, and it needs to stop with political parties.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
I just made a motion to adjourn in order to give every member of Congress time to rethink destroying women's rights and women's sports and religious freedom before voting for the Equality Act.
I hope by making you actually have to walk to the chamber to go to your job that perhaps there will be enough blood flow to your brain to vote no to the Equality Act and not destroy women's rights and religious freedom in the real world. People don't complain like you do.
The so-called Equality Act will destroy women's rights, competitive female sports and religious freedom. It's completely unconstitutional. Oppose https://tcotpbxbeb1tf.
I just called for a motion to adjourn to give every single member of Congress time to think before they vote on the Equality Act. The Equality Act completely destroys women's rights, girls' rights, women's sports, and religious freedoms. I hope that every colleague of mine will put aside their political party differences and realize that voting on the Equality Act is the wrong thing to do. We must protect women's rights and religious freedoms. The Equality Act is completely unconstitutional.
Democrats are lying about how the Equality Act would completely devastate women's rights and religious freedoms. Have Democrats actually read the bill? Read the actual text to HR 5 https tcogzb9xx8 vpv https tcolsctkbqutn.
As mothers, we all love and support our children, but your biological son does not belong in my daughter's bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports teams.
I rise today on behalf of the millions of Americans who continue to be denied housing, education, public services, and much, much more because they identify as members of the LGBTQ community. Americans like my own daughter, who years ago bravely came out to her parents as transgender. I knew from that day on my daughter would be living in a nation where most of its states she could be discriminated against merely because of who she is. And yet, it was still the happiest day of my life, and my daughter has found her authentic self. And as any mother would, I swore that I would fight to ensure this country changes for the better. Without the Equality Act, this nation will never live up to its principles of freedom and equality. The right time to pass this act was decades ago. The second best time is right now. I'm voting yes on the Equality Act for Evie Newman, my daughter, and the strongest, bravest person I know. Thank you, and I yield back.
God created only two genders.
Please stop this child abuse now. https tco2k4pborn4p.
The Republican Party is the party of Trump Americathers. Child abuse intended in this nonsense America. https tconz3wwpumar. Moira Drakar, she is the agent of the big baseball player who was in the news in the US for a while because he signed a big contract and did some controversial things. She's a slut, everyone knows it, but no one is supposed to say it. She is a part of a liberal movement to bring women into baseball.
Support those who might be shadow banned on tweets that have a lot of engagement. Scroll to the bottom where it says these show additional comments, including those that may contain offensive content, and give them a like. If you like it, your like might stop them from quitting Twitter. https tcoottgy8wva. If you liked my tweet about Pedro Pascal about his family's links to communism, you might find this small thread about another actor, Javier Bardem, and his family's links to communism interesting. Some actors are made famous because of their family's dedication to communism.
Maximilian Erwin von Schuppner was a hero who fought against communists in the 1905 Russian Revolution, and then during WW1 as a German diplomat in Turkey. He was the most outspoken critic of the Turkish genocide against Armenians. He died holding Hitler's arm in 1923. https tcomq06xzhmpk.
An opponent of racism and defender of human rights, he created a group originally called The Bridge, seeking to bring together Slav Russians and Germans in the mutual struggle against communism. Also helped expose the Turks' genocide of Armenians based on the race and tried to stop it. https tcoogcxrxx638.
A true humanitarian who tried to save Christian Russia, Christians in Armenia, and Christian Germany by educating Hitler and the National Socialists about the Zionist conspiracy against Germany. He died in 1923 trying to free Germany, becoming one of the 16 blood martyrs. https tcofyzcpsiprv.
I'm on full troll mode since multiple leftists called me a Nazi. Image me a Puerto Rican being a Nazi. Call me a now sympathizer maybe.
New Corn Pop Michigan Bro.
I am really pissed at my friend who kept telling me you gotta watch Ozark on Netflix, you will like it. Bro, watching a man give another man a blowjob is the last thing that I needed to see in my life. I'm gonna kill him gay. Netflix strikes again. Nighttime Zox psychological trauma is worth 64 cents.
And Conitico noticed practicing his aim for Bowers back. Sparkle one, the big guy with the horns doing bicep curls looks scary now. I know what Baltic pagan felt like.
Tanklo Colleen Aldrich 1, tell her to pray for the Holy Mother and Saint Michael's protection.
The New York Yankees are nerds.
Good, right? Good, man. I feel good. Me and
Without Trump at the helm, the negligence, leaving aside the raging corruption in our current government, is terrifying. Let us hope Trump's accomplishments and the groundwork he laid will get us through to 2022.
Was blocked from Twitter for the verifiable evidence of voter fraud posted yesterday, but I'm back this morning. The half-Asian Kraken fight like Cold War figuratively. https://tcofsxgumsuvs. Fight like hell.
Yes, we have Mug Club and a shop site https://tcoh1ggll3. ScottAdamsSays for the Merc https://tcogc7s295u. ScottAdamsSays it was a 12-hour suspension.
Yes, McSurkey, brave man.
Guest hosts in studio today to talk Twitter suspension. Hint: Bill Richmond. We're minutes out, so tune in now. https://tcodn1u50 KaitMarieox. If Twitter can ban evidence verifiable beyond any shadow of a doubt, then do they have any limitations at all? Free Crowder.
If we're wrong, Twitter and Jack have to prove it to us. https://tcohucf592smn.
These are their, I couldn't care less about, and we don't want to, people know that we're filing lawsuits against Facebook. I don't want to sue Twitter because they're the least relevant of the platforms. Right. I mean, listen, they're driving themselves into the ground at this point. Yeah, it's Jack. But I will say this segment will be uploaded to Twitter because you. And also, I don't really care about my account. This post, that's not enough for me. This post needs to be publicly available, and people need to be able to remove that is to put your thumb on the scale of democracy, on the scale of this constitutional republic, and that's more important. If they want to put me in Twitter jail, if they said, look, we'll give you an agreement right now. You can no longer tweet, but we'll make sure that these posts, that this process you went through, these segments where you verify addresses will be up. Take your pick in a heartbeat. I am tired right now of this, of people being so concerned about I couldn't care less. I was taken out of Twitter jail so quickly, to be clear. Yeah. We just don't have an answer as to what's going on with the post. And it's not enough. It's not enough. We're coming for it. It's got to be available, or you tell us what is wrong. Find something wrong with what we did. Find something factually inaccurate. We fact-check you. We fact-check the people who didn't go through the verification process. If we are wrong, you need to prove it to us. Otherwise, it's just silencing information that you don't like.
You got caught telling the truth about VTRFRD on Twitter.
Okay, job seekers, LWC is hiring again. Please read over and follow all directions on the jobs page before applying, and only apply for positions listed. https://tcores0c1wbu.
The following information is straight from the pa.gov website and has almost 3.1 million entries. I exported all that information into an Excel sheet, but I was cut off at about 1 million rows, so keep in mind we're working with 1/3 of the whole data set. So the first thing I did was create a column to see if any ballots were mailed out by the government the same day that they were received, filled out through the mail by the voter. Turns out about 11,000 were filled out by the voter and returned back to the government the same day the government mailed them out to the voter. I then created a column to see if there were any applications that were approved by the government, mailed out by the government, received by the voter, and then filled out by the voter and mailed back to the government on the same day. And there were 8,205 cases of that. And lastly, I created a column to see if there were any ballots that were received through the mail, filled out before they were even mailed out by the government. There were 7,403 cases of that. Pause the screen to read each definition of the columns. If anyone's able to make sense of these numbers without saying it's fraud, please let me know in the comments.
Notice there has not been one single fact check of our recent voter fraud segment, not one.
Marcus Bucicero, I got the title through rigging. Perjure justice.
Is antonym per 1 euro so indeed social engineering, extremely successful social engineering.
What is the most dangerous thing on Twitter? Jack Sabik is one of the top grifters on Twitter. Who would scare you if you are walking back home very late in the night in a dark street and see him approaching you?
As a Christian man, would you date someone like Kim Kardashian?
As a Christian woman, would you date someone like Kanye West?
Can black and white folks ever live together in permanent peace and harmony in America? Who is out of his mind?
Pope Francis is.
Would you vote for Tucker Carlson in the 2024 Republican presidential primaries?
Do you agree with my assessment that Conan has immensely damaged the fight against pedophilia with their lies and dribble, because from now on the satanic lobby will successfully smear every genuine fighter against pedophilia as a liar, a cook, and a conspiracy theorist?
Alert.
SA1ID forgot the last 4 years. Justin followed someone who had retweeted Mick Pompeo to pollute my timeline.
Apparently homosexual men refer to other homosexual men as she. The way things are moving, one or more major wars may be coming soon. A series of economic and social disasters are coming worldwide, and the one sucking our blood is planning to make big money from it by starting wars. The wheels have already been set in motion. Help us, Jesus.
Kangaroos moles, amen, brother.
These sick jokes aren't funny.
Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. James 1:27.
But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. 1 John 31:718.
Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Galatians 6:2. Remember Crenshaw and his Twitter activities. Apparently he has been caught again doing something similar. Details to follow. https://tcokbzwyftqpy. What is Joe Biden doing right now?
What is Hot doing right now? Check out Peppers in the News. It's like the WikiLeaks. It continuously carries out great investigative work headed by Max Blumenthal. https://tcojgfxokinb. Max Blumenthal, Orange Mate, Benjamin Orton, and I current Bill. Peppers in the News. Max, just to let you guys know that the hacking label with the link to your story is still there. Russia's the bogeyman for Western governments to justify their corrupt military spendings. In reality, Russia's not very powerful. It is run by a corrupt group of people and has huge economic and social issues domestically to deal with. Even its military might is exaggerated.
Meanwhile, this poor lady wrote me and said her life was coming to an end and she wanted me to write her special message in my book that she bought last night, so I sent her special video message and I'm giving her a free book. God bless her soul. https://tcopmso7hptbd https://tcofemgpqxrhj